If you're planning to cruise with Carnival Cruise Line on any of their ships, then listen up, because in this video today, I am going to share with you 15 of my top Carnival Cruise Line tips to hopefully help you have the best vacation yet. If you've just found me today, then I'm Fraser and I use my YouTube channel to share all of my cruise experiences and all of my tips with you. So let's get started with Carnival Cruise Line tip number 1. And that is to book things early. I'm not talking when you get on the ship. I'm talking before you even think about travelling to the port. You need to be going onto your online account and you need to be adding anything to that you might want to upgrade your booking with. For example, a Wi-Fi package, a drinks package, a shore excursion. The opportunities there really are endless. Now, why do I think you need to add this before the cruise? Well, a number of cruise lines offer discounted pricing if you book and pay for things in advance versus doing it on board the ship. This is totally common practice in the cruise industry, but Carnival are so guilty of it. So if you want to add a Wi-Fi package, for example, you can usually save about 20% of that price by booking and paying for it before you head to the port. Online bookings will usually close 2 or 3 days before the cruise, so get that added in plenty of time. But in my opinion, this is almost free money. If you're going on the cruise and you know that you're going to need Wi-Fi, or you know that you're going to buy a drinks package, just do it before you get on board. Why wait? Because in all of my cruises, I've never seen it to be better value to wait until you're on board the ship. So number 1, log into your online account and book things early. Number 2, we're moving on to one of the hot topics when you cruise, and that is food. My second Carnival Cruise Line tip is that if you're hungry, try and avoid the buffet by understanding what else is open and when, because this might just surprise you. So many people cruise and they think that the main breakfast options are either the buffet restaurant up at the Lido or the main dining room. But on board some Carnival ships, there are additional dining options, and it's really important that you check them out if, like me, you want to escape the crowds. For example, the poolside Mexican on the Vista class ships is open for breakfast every single day. You'll also find that Guy's Smokehouse down on the promenade deck on those ships is open for lunch on sea days. There are so many different options on the ships. It's so important that you do your homework. In terms of finding out when these venues are open, we'll come to that shortly, because there is one document that will be your absolute gospel all through your cruise, but we'll come back to that. Number 3, take a water bottle on board with you. Don't worry, you're not going to be limited to only drinking water on your cruise, especially if you've added that drinks package we've just spoken about. But so many people, I feel, pay a lot of money to buy bottled water when it's on board, and they don't realise how easy it is to get access to free drinking water when they're on the ship. You'll often find drinks fountains around the ship. You'll also find that staff at bars are more than happy to fill up your water bottle for you, and you can also fill up a bottle at the buffet. Now, what I do have to say is that when you go to the buffet, you should never put your bottle directly under the water tap, because that, at the end of the day, is how we spread infection and illnesses. Always make sure that you fill up your water bottle using a glass and pouring it in. Now, also check out Carnival's drinks policy, because you might be surprised. At the point of recording this video, any Carnival guest could take one 750ml sealed bottle of wine or champagne in their carry-on. That's per person, not per cabin. You're also able to then take a small amount of non-alcoholic beverages, for example, sparkling water, sodas, juices, etc. on board with you. So make sure you check that drinks package, because you might just save yourself a couple of dollars by doing so. Number 4, if you're cruising on board any Carnival cruise ship, it's so important that you try and learn any little tricks on that ship to help you find your way around. Now, some cruise lines offer things like colours that point towards elevators, or fish swimming on the carpets to head in one direction. Carnival, generally speaking, don't do that, but one tip that I will give you is that when you get out of the elevator on any passenger cabin deck, You're going to find that on one side of the ship, all of the cabins will have odd numbers, and on the other side of the ship, all of the cabins will have even numbers. When you then enter that corridor, you'll find that walking in one direction means that the number on the door will go up, and walking in the other direction, the numbers on the doors will begin to go down. It's probably the easiest way to find your cabin if you're totally unfamiliar with that cruise ship. So always remember, odd on one side, even on the right, and you'll find massive signs in every single elevator lobby telling you which is which. Number 5, the daily schedule. I mentioned earlier that there's a document you'll see on board that really will become your bread and butter for knowing what's on and when while you're on the ship. And that is your daily schedule. The daily schedules don't get delivered to the cabin anymore, and we'll come back to that in a second, due to the fact that it's all digital. I, however, love to get a paper copy delivered to my room. I met so many people on board who really didn't like the fact that they couldn't get a paper copy, but the reality was that they absolutely could. They just had to ask for it. So my tip here is that if you want to get a paper daily schedule delivered to your cabin, just ask your stateroom attendant on any day of the cruise. I say to mine on embarkation day, hey, I'd like a paper schedule delivered every single day. It's never an issue, and when I come back from dinner each evening, the daily schedule is ready on the bed for me to look and plan my day the next day. So daily schedules, if you want it in paper form, just ask. Number 6, download the Carnival Hub app from your local app store before you sail. It's easy. Just jump onto the App Store on your iPhone, on your Android, whatever type of phone or device you have. Search for the Carnival Hub app and it should be free of charge and it should be available for you. Now, why, if I get a paper daily schedule delivered, would I then recommend downloading the Carnival Hub app? Is there any benefit if you're going to get the paper schedule delivered? Personally, I would say yes. On the app, you can do a whole host of things, including things like viewing your onboard account. You can also chat with any friends that you make on board the ship without then having a full Wi-Fi package. You can also do things like viewing restaurant menus and understanding where the ship is at any point in time. It's really, really clever and it's very intuitive. So I would definitely recommend, before you head to the port, jump online and download the app. On the point of doing so before you head to the port, it is so important. So many people try to download this app once they're on board, along with 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 other people. Now, in those environments, it can often be difficult to get a good phone signal and to get a good connection, and that therefore means that it's going to take you so much longer to download the app when you're at the port or when you're on board the ship. Right now, if you're planning your Carnival cruise, if you're watching this video at home, jump onto the App Store and download that app. Trust me, you'll thank me later when you're not trying to do it on the top deck of the ship. Number 7, make your speciality dining venue reservations as early as you possibly can. On all of my Carnival cruises, I've found the upcharge restaurants to be particularly busy and in particularly high demand. That means that there's often passengers who can't dine at their preferred time, or if they leave it too late in the cruise, they can't even dine in that restaurant at all. So if you have any dining venues on board that you are really looking forward to trying, book it as early as you can. I would always say to people, don't book it 3 or 4 days in. If you want to do it, get on that ship, go to the restaurant reservation desk and get it booked, because what you don't want is to leave it till later in the cruise and then you end up missing out. Number 8, try and become a Carnival VIP. If you've never taken a Carnival cruise before, you will probably have no idea what that term means. And don't worry, because I also didn't, but once I got on board, I really wished that I had known in advance. Every single one of my Carnival cruises has kicked off with a welcome on board show, where usually the cruise director will host a show in the main theatre or show lounge, and it will feature various icebreakers and games to get passengers mingling and also to get passengers up on stage doing, various challenges, we'll say for now. After you complete those challenges, some people are then appointed Carnival VIPs for the rest of the cruise. meaning that for the entirety of their cruise, they unlock these really cool additional benefits. One benefit that's great with that is that they will then get reserved VIP seating in the theatre for every single show that they want to go to during that cruise. I thought this was excellent, and if I had known that for the theatre shows I'd be getting a VIP front row seat without having to queue for it, I'd probably have put my hand up to go on stage. So yes, tip number 8, try and make yourself a Carnival VIP. Number 9, speaking of entertainment, let's move outside and talk about the deck parties. I have never seen a cruise ship deck party anything like on a Carnival ship, and they don't just happen on Embarkation Day. You'll find a huge party on sail away, but you'll also find that typically every single port that you cruise out of, there'll be another deck party happening outside. You'll also then find that if you are cruising on a warmer weather route, so for example out of the US, which is where the majority of Carnival cruises tend to go from, then you'll find that the nighttime entertainment will also move poolside, and it is so much fun. So make sure that if you are cruising with Carnival, you plan to at least attend the deck party, and why not leave your camera in your pocket and just get involved. It is so much fun. Number 10, before you cruise, you need to be logging into your online account and selecting your embarkation time slot as early as possible. This way, you can get the time that you want, rather than being landed with whatever time everybody else doesn't want. This is particularly important if you are cruising with a group, because Carnival can be quite strict with not allowing passengers into the terminals until it's their designated embarkation time. I completely understand this because some of the ships are enormous, and if everybody just turned up at whatever time they wanted to, the terminal would be pretty chaotic. All you have to do is go online, check in online, and then select what time you'd like to arrive at the port. Usually, embarkation times will be available from early afternoon right up until sort of 4 PM on embarkation day. If you're travelling with a group, you'll find that it can sometimes be quite difficult for the whole group to be assigned within the same slot. So make sure that if you do have a group chat or a group email list or whatever with the people you're travelling with, get them to log in and pick their slot. If you end up being assigned different times, my tip and my recommendation would always be that if you'd like to all board together, you're going to have to turn up at the port at the latest time within your group. So for example, if my embarkation time was 1 PM, but everybody else in the group was 3 PM, chances of us getting in, if we all turn up at 1 PM on my time, are pretty slim. But if we all turn up at the latest time, in this example 3 PM, it shouldn't be an issue. We should get straight through the terminal and straight onto the ship. Tip number 11. Carnival cruise ships can be such busy places, but if you want to enjoy the ship when it's much quieter, why not think about staying on board during a port day? On all of my Carnival cruises, I have found that almost all of the passengers go ashore. Very few seem to remain on the ship, unlike other cruise lines where I can sometimes find that about 50% of the passengers actually remain on board, and it makes the ship still feel quite busy during a day in port. On a Carnival cruise, you're going to find great deals at venues like the spa. If you remain on board when the ship's in port, fine. It means that if you are relaxing in the sauna, you're not going to be looking out over the open ocean. You'll maybe be looking out over a port city or a port town. However, in my opinion, for the money you can save by doing so, it is completely worth it. You're also going to find that on some ships, some of the upcharge restaurants will then offer complimentary lunches for those who are staying on board the ship. Now in here, you're not going to be getting the same fancier menus that you would get at night. You'll get a much more refined affair. So if you go for an Italian on a Vista class ship, you'll probably find that instead of the full menu, there will be 3 or 4 main courses for you to pick from, and the same with dessert. If you go at dinner, there would be far more selection, but at the end of the day, you're getting it for free, which I think is such a huge thumbs up to Carnival. So yes, number 11, if you want to enjoy that ship when it's a little bit quieter, try and stay on board once or twice during your cruise while the ship's in port. Number 12, bring some cash. Sometimes on a cruise it's not really that important to carry cash, but when cruising with Carnival, I found it to be really, really important. There's a number of reasons. First, Carnival as a cruise line does operate on a tipping basis. Some cruises and some cruise lines include tips and gratuities as part of the base fare, but for Carnival that's not the case. So I would always enjoy having cash with me so that I could tip when I was receiving good service around the ship. Other areas that you might then want to use cash for would include things like the onboard casino or when you're off in port. A lot of Caribbean ports, for example, will have bars, restaurants, cafes that do operate on a cash-only basis. So I hate getting caught out and then having to go to an ATM and pay poor exchange rates and also fees for extracting cash while I'm abroad. So I always, whenever I get on a Carnival cruise ship, just make sure that I've got some cash. Now don't worry, most of your onboard expenses will go through on your room key. When you board the cruise, if you've never taken one before, you'll be given a card, and that's what you'll use to get in and out of your cabin. That card is then what you will use to scan to buy things like drinks or spa treatments or excursions, and your onboard account will essentially just build up on your key. Now, at the end of the cruise, you'll then settle that either using your debit card, your credit card, or you can also settle that in cash. So if you have brought cash onto your cruise to pay for things that we've just spoken about, any cash that you've got left over at the end that you want to get rid of rather than go home with it, just head down to guest services or reception and they will gladly take the cash and put it towards your onboard account. So really not an issue at all. Carry some cash and the rest is super easy. Tip number 13. If you're planning to cruise with Carnival Cruise Line, go prepared to take part in Elegant Night. I had no idea what to expect before my first Carnival cruise on the subject of Elegant Night because anybody that I knew who had cruised with Carnival before had told me how incredibly relaxed it was. They even mentioned that people would wear shorts and t-shirt into the main dining room, which is a complete no with so many other cruise lines. Now, on Elegant Night, there's not a strict dress code, so you're not going to have to wear a ball gown or a tuxedo, don't worry, but so many people do make a little bit more of an effort to get dressed up. On the Carnival website, they do explain that things like shorts, sleeveless shirts, t-shirts, baseball hats, things like that won't be permitted in the main dining room on Elegant Night. They're usually fine for the rest of the cruise, but for that one night, pack a shirt, make an effort, and get involved. Number 14. If you're cruising with Carnival, get back to the ship on time. From all of the cruises I've ever taken, I have found some of the passengers on board Carnival ships to be among the worst at timekeeping that I have ever come across. At one of our ports in the Caribbean last year, we waited over an hour for passengers to finally come back to the ship so that we could leave to go to the next port. Now that was fine because the distance between our two ports was pretty short, so we could wait for an hour and still make it to the next port the following morning without arriving late and upsetting everyone else on board or burning too much fuel. However, that's not always the case. Sometimes, if all aboard time is 4 p.m, at 4:01 that gangway will be pulled in and that ship will sail straight out of port, whether you're on it or not. So if you are planning to cruise with this cruise line, please get back to the ship on time. On that note, if you are back early, go get yourself a drink and set yourself up by one of the railings where you can see the dock, and who knows, you might get to see a pier runner. Tip number 15, you might not want to think about disembarkation day before you've even got onto the ship, but my final tip here is that if you're planning to cruise with Carnival Cruise Line, you should be planning to attend the Disembarkation Day presentation. You'll typically find this will take place on your final sea day before you then arrive at your last port of the cruise. And this presentation will typically be led by the cruise director, and they're going to tell you all about how to leave the ship in the best possible way. If you attend this, then you are almost guaranteed to leave that ship in a less stressful way than those who don't. Things like settling your account, how to pack your bag, what to keep in your cabin on the last day. What else do you need to know about the terminal that you're arriving into? You're going to get so much information from that presentation, and I am a huge advocate of it. So yes, tip number 15, make sure that you attend your disembarkation day presentation towards the end of your cruise. And that's it. That's my top 15 tips for if you're planning to cruise with Carnival Cruise Line. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, let me know in the comments what you think. If you've cruised with Carnival in the past and you think I've missed something from this list, then please also let us know in the comments, because I am sure somebody watching this video somewhere would love to have a read through and see what everybody else thinks. If you did enjoy this video and you'd like to join me in another, then hit that subscribe button and come and join me over in this video. Here, I board my very first Carnival cruise in California, and it was quite a shock. I'll see you over there.